There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left.
Live from your grave.
That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
Listen, guys, listen. Let's say they make a new USS Indianapolis film.
Oh.
You know who I want in that movie?
Who?
Number one, Zoe Deutch.
Who's Zoe Deutch?
She's kind of skinny.
I've no idea who Zoe Deutch is.
Zoe Deutch should be one of those nurses. I don't know why they always have those in World War II movies where it's always a nurse.
Well, a lot of people are sick and dying.
Zoe Deutch goes into the water, and I want one of the sharks to be played by number two. Guess what?
Who?
Josh Gad.
Wow, you are brave.
And this is me taking myself out of the running.
That's incredible.
That's me giving a part. That's me giving back to Hollywood.
Wow,
Like-
your heart has grown 2 sizes today, showing love to Josh Gad.
Josh Gad playing the shark. Let's say there's like Zoe Deutch is in the water, and there was one soldier that she was sweet on, right? But he was kind of an asshole, like on the boat when they were out there, right? And he said like, I don't need you, Zoe Deutch, because he doesn't change her name for films because she can't recognize other names.
Oh, ding. Oh, I'm so sorry, Henry. This is my elevator stop. I'll
sir,
see you
no.
later.
No, this
I
is
have
me.
to go work at
There's a nerdy guy.
Viacom. Okay, bye.
There's a
I'm going to
nerdy
go back
guy.
in my office as a Viacom.
And the Chad gets eaten by Josh Gad.
Security escort him out. Welcome to Last Podcast on the Left, everyone. I am Ben, hanging out with Henry and Marcus. Today's episode, I'm scared of being underwater. I'm scared of closed spaces. I'm scared of sharks. And I'm scared of kamikaze pilots. So I'm going to be scared this whole episode.
To steal a line from Marcus Parks, you'll never go to the beach again.
Wow. That's your impression
You'll
of Marcus.
never go in the water again.
Marcus, can you say that's...
Yeah. You'll never go into the water again.
Yeah.
Wow, it's actually pretty good. I thought you were kind of being mean, but that's how he sounds.
My name's Zoe Deutch, and I'm very mad that I can't read.
Okay. All right, everyone. Today's topic, so cool to be covering this. Nicolas Cage was a star in a film about the very topic we're going to discuss today.
I watched it last night.
It is so awesome.
Yes.
USS Indianapolis. That is what we're discussing today, the USS Indianapolis.
So the sinking of the USS Indianapolis was the worst sea disaster to ever occur in the history of the United States Navy.
Ever since they stopped singing that song,
Which one?
The Village People.
In the Navy.
In the Navy.
Over the course of 4 harrowing days following a Japanese torpedo attack on July 30th, 1945, in the waning days of World War II, 890 men went into the shark-infested waters of the Pacific Ocean, but only 316 came out alive.
Okay, can we get it out right now before we continue?
You get 3.
I
Three
think
references.
three's a lot.
You think
Three's
three's
a
a lot?
lot.
Okay, so you get 2.
I'm just going to do this one because I think,
Okay.
but honestly, I was going to give it to you, Marcus. I think you
Okay.
should say it properly at the very top so that we all know what we're talking about here.
You know what?
I'd love to know.
I've already got a moment set out for me personally where I'm
Wow.
going to do it. I'm not going to tell you when it is, but I've got a moment. I'm
I have
taking
no idea
my
what you guys
moment.
are talking about.
I guess I'll just do. I'll
You
take
don't
this
give-
one.
Sir, you don't give me a moment, I take my moment.
I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad.
Wow. All right. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, do it.
890 men went in the shark-infested waters. Only 316. It came out of the brink.
That's what you wanted to do?
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Let's move on.
And while the USS Indianapolis is often put forth as a shining, impeccable example of courage in the face of impossible odds, the real story, like many events involving America in World War II, is far darker than what the whitewashed histories would lead us to believe.
Imagine if the Donner Party took all of the events of the Donner Party, took place over 3.5 days on rafts made out of lifesavers.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare. Also, when you say lifesavers, I do think of the treat. The sweet
as
candy.
do I.
All right, cool.
But that's not to say that there were no men who behaved courageously over those 4 days in the water. Some did, and the efforts of those men saved the lives of others. But the men who lost their minds in the waters of the Pacific over those 4 days and gave in to their baser instincts, they helped to create a scenario that's actually far more horrific than what Captain Quint's speech in Jaws implies.
Now, I'm fine if you lose your mind.
Sure.
But 4 days? You're going to lose your mind over a long weekend.
Oh, buddy.
It takes 2 weeks before I'll allow you to kind of lose your mind. If you look at me like I'm a ham hock after 24 hours, I would have been like, 48 hours ago, you must have been thinking the same thing.
These guys knew that no one was coming for him. They were on a covert mission. Nobody knew where the hell they were. They assumed that once they went into the water, no one was going to get them out. So after 3 days, you're sitting there wondering, how long can I float? How long can I keep this boner going?
Oh, my goodness.
But before we get into the story, our main source today is Indianapolis, the true story of the worst sea disaster in U.S. naval history by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Vladek. Cool. While it is quite long, like most World War II books are, it's still well written and gives complete context to the disaster itself.
There's also the U.S. Indianapolis documentary that is pretty great. That is like a PBS one. That's a big one. And then I watch
it's
a bunch
narrated
of...
by Kyle Chandler.
Everybody's favorite.
Isn't that nice?
The only white man in America everyone can still agree on.
Day of the Kamikaze is also fucking dope. And there's a lot of footage on this, and then, just straight up fucking that movie, the U.S. Indianapolis movie.
The USS Indianapolis.
It has a lot of like factorial, like there is like facts in it.
What part?
yeah. But it's hard, man, because they always set it up. They always do the thing at the very beginning where you have to Johnny's trying to see his best girl, but Billy, he's been talking to his girl on the side, like all this kind of bullshit, and then they're all fucking eaten by sharks.
It's called setting up the story.
So without further ado, let's get into the sinking of the USS Indianapolis and the 4 harrowing days that followed. Built in 1930, the USS Indianapolis was the flagship of the Fifth Fleet in the Pacific Theater of World War II, focused solely on the war with Japan as opposed to the European Axis powers. The Indy was the length of 2 football fields. It had 3 250-ton turrets with 3 8-inch guns on each one, and it was a veteran of 10 naval battles, including the Battle of Tarawa, the Battle of Tinian, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the landing at Iwo Jima, and the beginnings of the invasion of Okinawa.
Should have got a smaller boat.
I guess so. That's a massive boat. But kind of fun if you think about throwing the football around, having a good time, slapping butts with the boys.
But if you play Civ 6, you know how important naval warfare, it is still second to air warfare because of the coverage you can get. But naval warfare is incredibly important because they can shoot their weapons 17 miles away from shore. So you park them out, and then they just bomb from the outside. And then people like my dad roll torpedoes around the basement of it and laugh and fun and just drink beers all day.
Yeah, just get absolutely hammered. Absolutely. The Navy is so powerful, you don't see it, out of sight, out of mind, but it's all around, and they got a bunch of missiles aimed at our enemies and friends.
We do it to both, don't we?
We do it to both.
Now, the Indy escaped serious damage in its first 9 major battles, but during the advance offensive in the lead-up to the Okinawan invasion, the USS Indianapolis received a dire wound from a Japanese kamikaze pilot.
Oh, no.
Now, America was, at this point in the last year of our war with Japan, meaning that many of the best Japanese fighter pilots were long dead and replaced with teenagers with limited skills. And some of those teenagers were the kamikaze pilots of lore.
They went their rounds to all of the pilot schools, and they got the top cadets, they said.
Did they get the top cadets or the worst cadets?
Well, eventually the top cadets are taken, and eventually it's just cadets, and then it's middle cadets, and then it's lower cadets. But mostly at the very beginning of the push for kamikaze pilots, it was because they had run out of all of these experienced guys. They were all dead. They were just going for whoever was the hotshot, and whoever they could basically persuade to believe that they were doing this for the love of the empire.
I missed this scene of Top Gun.
I mean, because Top Gun, all they did was just try not to kiss each other.
I know, they were horned up.
Now, the myth of the kamikaze pilot is that they effectively used their planes as missiles. And while that's partly true, it doesn't tell the whole story. Because just flying a small fighter plane into a battleship, it doesn't really damage it in any meaningful way.
My research this time really showed me that was an interesting part of it, is that you can fly a normal plane into a battleship and you can fix it. You can fix the battleship and you can actually continue fighting that day. So they had to develop new technology to make just flying planes into shit that much more dangerous.
A little Flex Seal will fix a lot of stuff. We learned this when the New York Yankees pitcher, I believe, flew his plane into a building. Only 2 people died. Little damage.
It's pretty great. Yeah, if he was trying to do it, he probably would have caused more damage.
Yes, maybe. I don't think the building I don't think intent really matters when two colossal things combine with each other.
I don't know. What's it like when you and I do side
stories?
stories?
Well, like if you think of like a 9/11, if like the terrorists were like, what if we don't really do it that hard? But like if you drive a plane into a building, like I don't think emotion matters.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. Science.
Okay, well,
That's science.
You're saying they let God take the wheel?
Oh.
Well, many of the kamikaze pilots were flying straight into heavy gunfire so they could survive just long enough to drop a payload on their targets.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened to the USS Indianapolis.
Well, there was two types, right? Because you did eventually have what they called I believe that it was like called the flowering chrysanthemum. They called an oka, which is they would have a bomber plane with a smaller plane that was lined with explosives that a little guy would sit inside. Like you have one pilot inside of it, and his job was the bomber plane would get close and then drop this super heavy bomb built plane to crash directly into shit. Some of the planes were designed to get close and just squirt missiles at them, right? And just try to get as close as possible. But a lot of times they were starting to build things that were specifically made to crash into shit. They also would fly in at the angle of the sun. So like you'd be trying to look for them and you can't see anything because you're looking directly into the sun. All of a sudden they drop out of the line of the sunlight. You can see them and sometimes you only had like 30 seconds before they collided with you. And they go, like, oh, I'm thinking of you, Bessie.
I'm thinking of you, Bessie, indeed. Absolutely horrifying. Being tall is very difficult, and I think a lot of people...
Is that what this is about?
They mock the tall man. But in this case, very nice not to be able to fit in a submarine or one of these airplanes. The tall people did survive the kamikaze attack.
They also screamed, Hisatsu, as they landed, which meant sink without fail.
Yeah.
Search and kill!
Oh, cool. Search and kill.
Well, while the USS Indianapolis was shelling the island of Okinawa, a Japanese pilot managed to maneuver through a maelstrom of artillery and gunfire to drop a bomb right on the deck of the ship before he himself crashed into the sea and died.
Oh my God, he took a military dump right on that ship.
That's what they do.
The 500-pound bomb crashed through deck after deck before it finally exploded deep inside the ship, sending a geyser of seawater and fuel oil spouting 100 feet into the air.
Whoa.
The ship, however, held strong and didn't sink, although 9 men were killed. Now, contrary to popular belief, there were many men in the Japanese military who were against kamikaze tactics, both because of the obvious moral implications.
Yeah.
And because of the loss of resources and money that came from sacrificing plane after plane after plane.
It took like one crazy guy to pitch it. There was one of the field of generals, he pitched doing this movement, this idea, what was called the special attack unit, that because at this point, what's hard about the propaganda machine that they were also within was how deep did the officers themselves also believe the propaganda machine. So one side was a bunch of people saying, we'll win it no matter the cost. We'll do it because we're the empire of the sun. We'll rise again and again and again. But then there are other people who were looking at the data and saying like, we're losing hard.
Yeah.
It does not seem like an effective way to fight a war.
Well, the people that were for kamikaze pilots, they believed that if just 30% of those pilots succeeded, then it would all be worth it.
I think it's also safe to say the people that were for kamikaze pilots were never kamikaze pilots.
No, absolutely not. And so 3,800 Japanese pilots plunged to their doom during the last days of World War II, killing 7,000 American servicemen.
And the kamikaze pilots themselves were not that thrilled either. Some of them
It
were.
must have been horrifying.
There were some true believers, but a lot of them were forced. And a lot of times when they were forced to sign up, they would have this sheet where they would have to sign up to volunteer. And one column was eager and one column was very eager. There was no. They also used to
This is like a
beat them.
PlayStation review where it's like, did you like it? Did you love it? Did you love it? Love it? Just tell us.
And they also would beat them into submission. They would break them down and beat them. And this was obviously very scary. And then certain things they would do, they would purposely overload planes. According to one witness that they had overloaded a plane to basically show like, look how happy everybody is to be inside and go kill themselves. They love it. Meanwhile, they're all like, Yay! As they left.
In some ways, this is adjacent to a death cult, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a man, one of the leaders of the kamikaze unit, the Vice Admiral Motomi Ugaki, who actually, when they finally realized that the ending had finally come, he committed suicide by kamikaze because he felt it was only honorable. So he loaded up, he saluted everybody for one last go, and then took off. But there was no registered boat sinking, because there's also a lot of discrepancies about how effective the kamikazes were.
Sure.
Yeah. But what's truly amazing is that kamikaze tactics weren't just used in the air. By sea, some Japanese submarines were actually outfitted with piloted kamikaze torpedoes.
Why not just use missiles?
They wanted you to see how serious they were about winning.
But that's the thing, is that the Americans didn't know that there were people in these torpedoes. They did it because it was efficient and because it was just that they could get the target. They could hit the target more times if there was a guy actually piloting this kamikaze torpedo than if they just shot one out of the submarine.
Okay.
Known as the Kai-10, these torpedoes were 60 feet long, less than 6 feet wide, and piloted by one man in a suicide mission of deadly precision.
Wow.
Once the pilot boarded the torpedo and closed the hatch, however, there was no escape.
Oh, man.
Hey, before you go, you want some gum or something?
Oh, yeah, I'd love some gum.
Sorry, too late. We're going to have to close this. Yeah, I
Okay,
shouldn't
you
have
just
even
hold
asked.
on. I'll be back. Okay.
Oh. Where a kamikaze pilot could turn back if mechanical trouble prevented him from succeeding in his mission, no such option was available to the pilot of a Kai-10.
Oh my gosh.
It was impossible to redock with the submarine that launched him. So if the mission could not be completed for whatever reason, the pilot had the choice of either detonating his warhead in the open sea or sinking to the ocean floor where he would suffocate to death.
All right, so basically you're
Exploding in Davy Jones's locker.
Oh, this sucks? I guess this just sucks either way, huh?
So after the USS Indianapolis suffered a kamikaze pilot attack in the lead up to the invasion of Okinawa, the ship returned to the Mare Island shipyard in San Francisco, which we mentioned briefly in our series on Alcatraz Penitentiary.
Did you know that Alcatraz means pelican?
Did not know that. Did not know that. Wow.
The repairs took months, and in the interim, history moved along at a rapid pace. In just the last 3 weeks of April 1945, President Franklin Roosevelt died.
Got him.
Benito Mussolini, the dictator of Italy, was publicly executed by his own people.
Got
and
him.
finally, Adolf Hitler shot himself in the face in his Berlin bunker. That
He got
happened in
himself.
3 weeks.
Wow. That's
Wow.
a lot of people who should be dead dying.
Yeah, that's
Except
a lot
for
of
Roosevelt.
bobbleheads.
Except for Roosevelt, of
Roosevelt
course.
should have survived, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we upset about Roosevelt, or do we like Roosevelt?
We like Roosevelt.
Yeah.
I
Those
was-
the Japanese internment camps were a bad thing, but overall,
That was bad.
Yeah, that was bad. But
We
overall,
like the idea
pretty
of
successful.
Yeah, I love the chair.
Pretty successful presidency overall.
Roosevelt. Yeah. There's
But
always
there
a
was-
couple of asterisks.
Apparently.
But there was still one more world-changing event in 1945 that the USS Indianapolis would take a direct role. This was the event that perhaps defined the second half of the 20th century. The USS Indianapolis was involved in the dropping of the atomic bomb on Japanese soil. See, the atomic bomb hadn't even been tested when the USS Indianapolis docked in San Francisco because Roosevelt had never given the final go-ahead to the team developing the bomb. Of course, the team developing the bomb was the Manhattan Project.
We are going to do a full atomic series.
Oh
A
my God, I'd love that.
A gigantic multi-part full atomic series that goes from fucking Oppenheimer to Nagasaki and beyond.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
I know it's a comedy, but Dr. Strangelove just rewatched it last week. It's just so freaking good.
My favorite comedy.
Oh,
It's
no kidding.
absolutely, yeah. One of my favorite. It's right behind Apocalypse Now when it
Oh,
comes to my favorite movies.
I thought you were going to call Apocalypse Now a comedy, and then
His
we were going
other
to end the
favorite
show, and then we're going to say, actually, you need to go to the hospital.
Well, that's like a film critic's version of a comedy. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing where it's like when they get into it, when film critics laugh at things, it's like Phantom Thread, where they go to watch it and they're like,
I laughed very hard at certain moments.
I loved
of
Dr.
Dr. Strangelove.
Oh,
I
Dr.
love that.
Strangelove's truly funny. Truly funny.
But when President Truman, who of course succeeded, President Roosevelt, when he learned that America was in possession of potentially the most powerful weapon in existence.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What we got here? Come on. What do you tell me we got in there? There's some kind of boom boom? Is there a boom boom room?
So your Truman is Ross Perot?
Come on.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Not too far off. Well, Truman ordered the immediate deployment of a combat-ready nuclear weapon to drop on Japan.
Can we drop it now? Can we drop it now? Can I see it now? Can you put some wheels on? I'll drive it around.
And I would also like to note Truman, very tiny man.
Hey, man.
Little guy syndrome should never be in office.
Important men don't need all of this body.
But while the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had horrific effects beyond just the initial blast, it's not like America wasn't already killing Japanese civilians en masse. In April of 1945, our bombing tactics on Japanese soil switched to low-altitude firebombing that focused on factories that supplied materials to manufacture military aircraft. That meant we were bombing civilian targets. In just one firebombing in downtown Tokyo, approximately 105,000 people were killed in 2 hours and 45 minutes, destroying a fifth of the city. It was the deadliest air raid in history, surpassing Hiroshima and more than doubling the death toll in Nagasaki.
And you never hear about it because it was just regular bombs.
Just regular old run-of-the-mill carpet bombing.
By one survivor's account, a baby was seen to catch fire on a mother's back, and the people who worked in the targeted factories were reduced to heaps of charred bones. And specifically, this area had been chosen because it was deemed the easiest to burn.
But that's why we made the atomic bomb, so we could stop ourselves from doing these horrible things, Marcus.
I mean, also, whoever decided to build all the houses out of matches needs to be fired. Horrible construction company.
But after this massive war crime was deemed a success on all fronts, we increased the practice to 60 more cities, killing what is conservatively placed at 300,333 Japanese civilians. Although some estimates place the number far higher.
And that's why we went, stop it. Ow, my hand. Stop it, everyone.
Little slap on the wrist, indeed.
Harry Truman's like, make a bigger one. We gotta get
was
one.
so-
How about we just keep dropping all the tiny little bombs, all filled with little sparks, going boom, 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 right? We do one big one. Just go, right? Come on.
There's nothing scarier than a little guy trying to be tough. It's very awful and horrifying. And I would assume that the estimate is low because I'm sure we killed more than that.
But for reasons that we'll go into full when we cover the atomic bomb, President Truman decided that the firebombing of Japanese cities wasn't doing the trick. So he ordered the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
I know you've been saying you're making this mushroom cloud, but what if, but mushrooms, that's France. That's France. What if it blows up into some kind of eagle? Some big old eagle.
Oh, that
flaming
would be
eagle.
kind of fun, like a firework you want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I can't wait for that when we cover the nukes because there is the large contingency of people who think that stopped the war and saved lives. I don't know if killing massive people in the main thing into war is really
it was not necessary in any way.
Because they're like, if
whatsoever.
not, then we have no choice but to roll into the neighborhoods of Tokyo. We have no choice.
We have no choice.
We have no choice. We have to go. So that's what they did. They pinned one against the other, where they said, like, we'll either roll in with 1,300 battleships and our entire army that now is done with Europe. We'll all just come over to the Japanese fleet. We'll attack the other side of the world. We'll get into it.
The idea that the atomic bomb saved millions of American lives from dying on Japanese soil is a complete and total PR campaign that was put forth by the American government.
Drag him.
Okay, we'll get him. Whoa, Queen. All right, we'll get into that when we cover nukes.
It was a part of the PR campaign when it started coming, when stories of the atomic plague started coming out from Hiroshima. But anyway, we will get to that in the series.
Great.
But since constructing an atomic bomb in full at Los Alamos and transporting it across America to its eventual destination in the Pacific was deemed a dumb idea for many reasons.
Yeah, it just seems like it. Like, what do you do? Is that a UPS shipment? Like, how do you take a full bomb? Like, you put a hat on it and you're like, this is my cousin Greg. Don't worry about him. He's
right,
quiet.
Hear me out, dude. Dominoes. They say 30 minutes or it's free, bro. What if we do that with nukes, dude?
Yeah, dude.
30 minutes or it's free.
This atomic bomb belongs in the back of a Nissan Sentra of a 19-year-old.
It does.
Since that was a dumb idea, the parts were transported separately to the Tinian Islands, where the atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, would be constructed.
You see, how bad could a little boy be?
Pretty bad.
Yeah, Little Boy was the one that was dropped on Hiroshima. Of course, the one that was dropped on Nagasaki, that was Fat Man.
Yes, which I thought was a little insensitive towards the missile.
I'm just waiting for the fucking photoshops for when we do the series.
Exactly.
And since the USS Indianapolis was a fast ship with a battle-hardened crew that coincidentally happened to be docked in San Francisco, it was chosen to transport the enriched uranium used in the bomb across the ocean. Amazingly, not even the captain knew what their cargo was, and they departed just hours after America detonated the first atomic bomb in history at the Trinity site in New Mexico.
That really has to be, I mean, overwhelming, obviously. Yeah. You're the captain of like one of the most prestigious ships in all of the U.S. Navy. They show up to you essentially the night before, and they say, what we're going to do is we're using your ship as a courier. And then they took the uranium and they welded it to the boat. And then they took the crate of all the bomb parts and they put it in there. Like, 2 guys know what this is. You don't even know what this is. Tomorrow, you guys are shipping out and taking this as fast as humanly possible across the Pacific Ocean. You're not supposed to ask what the fuck's in these boxes. Also, if this ship sinks, the first thing that gets out of this ship are these 2 boxes. Nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is in the box, indeed?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What if it was just Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
Well, that would have caused equal devastation, I think. It's possible.
The problem here was that the speed of the USS Indianapolis came with some potentially fatal trade-offs. Since the Indy was maximized for speed, range, and firepower, it had armor so thin that it was among the ships that were designated as tin-clad, as opposed to ironclad.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you didn't even unlock iron for that, huh? Yeah. What's the point of mining all these resources?
This meant that it was highly vulnerable to Japanese torpedoes, which were designed to crack stronger ships in 2. And the construction of the ship itself prioritized ease of movement over durability. This almost ensured that any crack would quickly fill the ship with seawater and sink the vessel. It was actually just kind of luck that the USS Indianapolis had survived for as long as it had. Because remember, it was built in 1930, and a lot of the newer ships were built to withstand these torpedoes and were built with the Japanese military in mind. But you know, the old adage is that the beginning of every war is a failure because they're essentially fighting the last war.
Right.
The USS Indy had a sort of reputation of being like one of the best of the best.
Well, it is
seemed to be a lot.
You almost give human characteristics to it, it seems.
Well, it's because it's about the captains of the ship, I think, quite a bit in the crews. So like they used it effectively, and they ended up like kind of, I guess this is my sports.
Yeah.
How like they get the best sportsmen all arrive on the same teams sometimes because it seemed to be
what kind of sport?
There is lacrosse.
Just say like 90s Cowboys. Just say 90s Cowboys. Say 1995 Cowboys.
Oh, you're talking about? I think you're just talking about men.
No, just the 1996. The 1996 Dallas Cowboys.
Sure.
Just say that.
Them. Like that.
And what do they do?
Oh, they spend money and they get big jewels. You got to fight for that inch.
Absolutely.
I forget how I got here.
That's actually good. Fight for every inch. That's,
And of course, shortly after the USS Indianapolis dropped off the uranium for the world's first offensive atomic bomb, that's exactly what happened.
Rise from your grave.
Now, considering how vulnerable the Indy was, an escort destroyer ship on the way to its next destination probably would have been a good idea. But the captain of the USS Indianapolis, Charles B. McVay III, was told that there was no Japanese submarines between him and the Indy's next destination in the Philippines. So nobody, including higher-ranking naval commanders, saw any need for an escort.
damn.
You know, it just feels like, honestly, you're going to need to get an escort.
Life is always better with an escort.
40 years old today, man.
Okay. 39 and holding.
39 and holding. Well, unbeknownst to Captain McVeigh, though, there were, in fact, 4 Japanese submarines between him and his destination.
Ugh.
But this fact, known to certain intelligence bureaus, was buried under a sea of information. See, the Allies had long since broken the encrypted Axis military codes, and they were churning out 2 million pages of intelligence per week from Japanese communications alone. The problem here, though, is that the Allies didn't want to tip their hand as far as how much they knew.
Right.
So the intelligence they gathered was handed out very carefully.
Was there also some, this is where I actually have a little bit of confusion. Was there not some hesitancy to give them an escort because the mission was so secret?
The mission was over.
Oh, by the time, but when they went there, like that was the big risky
had
part
it.
is that
No,
they
they
went
had
without
it.
an escort
Yeah.
to the island.
Yeah,
to
but
Tinian.
after Tinian, though, all of this happened after Tinian.
Yes, I know that.
The top secret mission is over at this point.
Yes.
So they got the uranium
Yeah, and
off the
Hiroshima
boat.
happened. It happened. They
Yeah.
did it.
And so literally they're like, in their minds, maybe they're a little relaxed. They're like, we did it. We dropped off our payload. Now let's just go chill out and everything will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what they dropped, what they dropped off. They don't know what happened. All they know is that they had a mission, they completed it, and now they're on the way to the Philippines for their next mission.
Okay.
I think the next thing they had to do was like gunnery practice. Nothing extremely. There wasn't that the top secret shit was over.
Okay.
They were
So-
supposed to be running tests, which is the part of the reason why they weren't discovered.
Well, as such, the USS Indianapolis went out solo into the lonely, shark-infested waters of the Pacific Ocean. Now, at around the same time, that the Indy was delivering the uranium to the Tinian Islands, a Japanese submarine commander named Mochitsura Hashimoto was given orders to move into the sea west of Guam to find an enemy to attack. So, on the evening of July 29th, 1945, Hashimoto's submarine, designated I-58, spotted the USS Indianapolis through its night periscope, making this the first real opportunity Hashimoto had in his 4 years as commander to sink an American ship.
How exciting for him.
I guess so. Also, is the night periscope, is that just in lingerie? And like when you look through it, it's kind of sexy?
Oh my
I
God,
love
that's
the
totally
night
going to be the
periscope.
name of the bar that we opened, the Night Periscope.
Oh my God. Right by Gapers.
Right next to Gapers.
Oh my goodness.
Now, when it comes to what Captain McVeigh could have done to prevent the sinking of his ship, the word that comes up again and again is zigzag.
Got zigzag.
See, in waters where submarines are known to lurk, ships like the Indy are supposed to take a zigzag course to avoid submarine torpedoes.
Okay.
But since Captain McVeigh was explicitly told that there were no submarines in the area, he was not zigzagging, nor should he have been by naval standards. Nevertheless, it would later be on this point that the entire USS Indianapolis disaster would be blamed on Captain McVeigh.
So you're telling me if I went back in time, all I would have to do is tell the captain to zigzag to avoid this whole thing?
But it wouldn't have mattered at all. Because what's truly tragic is that even if Captain McVeigh was zigzagging, it still wouldn't have mattered.
Okay.
Upon spotting the Indy alone out in the sea, Commander Hashimoto decided to fire a fan of 6 torpedoes to ensure that at least one of them hit. That completely negated the zigzag method.
Right.
Oh man, I made a zigzag, a zag-zig. And honestly, when it comes down to it, no U.S. Navy commander's trained to zag-zig.
No, it's impossible to do. I never actually heard of someone doing it.
Because the first thing you have to do is suck a dick.
I think you would have to zigzag backwards if you zag-zigged.
I mean, honestly, sure.
And I don't know why you would have to suck a dick at any time.
Because technically it's illegal to be gay in the military at the time. So you'd have to do the opposite of what's illegal at the time, but actually was probably very prevalent.
Yeah, there was a lot of men inside of each other.
Yeah. And
Inside, like the idea that people weren't getting it on.
Yeah, everybody.
I would.
You
If
suck
I
a
was
dick at night.
stressed out.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
fucking. We're here. We're delivering this uranium. Maybe I'm the only guy who knows. Suck my dick.
I would find a twink on there, and I would cuddle. We would cuddle consensually together.
So scary,
You know,
actually.
it's
The way
prison
you-
rules.
the way you
it's
said-
prison rules.
You said the term "find a twink on the boat." Like the idea of you walking around looking for how you decided that. I'd love to know.
there's
I'm not allowed on the boat. I'm too big.
I
for the
see
boat.
the boys over there. That's a good boy.
Okay,
over there.
I am an officer. Can I be thanked for my service, please?
And even if the fan technique didn't work, I-58 also had plenty of kamikaze torpedoes. That fucker was going down no matter what. But as it happened, the Kaiten weren't necessary. At 12:15 a.m., Hashimoto's torpedo detonated on the Indy's starboard bow, killing dozens of men instantly and opening the front of the ship to seawater.
And also, like how we talked about how in certain episodes of the Black Death series that it's nothing but screaming.
Yeah.
Know that this is nothing but screaming from here on out. Everyone is screaming from this point forward.
Yeah.
Because they got to go dog them down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think, would you rather scream in space or scream underwater? No one's hearing you either way, but
This is one of my... Being in a space shuttle is my number one nightmare. Stuck in open water is my number two nightmare.
I think I'm going to have to reverse that. I think I would rather float up in the air than be under the water. Water's so scary because there's no air sharks. Not that we know of.
Not that we know of. Those are drones.
Yes, that is true. Those are drones.
Now, concerning the power of these torpedoes, the Type 95 used by the Japanese was designed to mortally wound battleships. The first blast would buckle the ship's skin, while the second warhead was meant to punch a hole in the ship itself, breaking it in half. Now, soon after the initial torpedo, a second torpedo followed. This one ignited the aviation fuel stores, which severely burned anyone below deck in the forward part of the ship, in addition to creating a gigantic oil slick on the ocean surface.
So if this was Mr. Bean and he was sliding around the oil on fire, technically it would be funny, but it's our boys.
I think technically it would not be funny. And
Mr. Bean would make it funny.
He'd
Sell it, he'd make it funny. It's Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson is truly unbelievable because if you see him in real life, he's quite handsome. But Mr. Bean isn't so handsome, but you're like, how did he do that? That's acting. My image was just the young, zitty kid who should just be in high school probably. Just like getting drafted, going to do this thing for the country, and then all of a sudden burning alive in the middle of the ocean.
You know,
A lot of teenagers on the ship.
Oh, God.
I heard a little gum wrapper tell me war is hell.
That's a weird Laffy Taffy you take.
Well, seawater then came rushing in, drowning anyone caught in its path. And also people became trapped in these, because as Henry said, dogging. They had to try to close some of these chambers, so they tried to close some of the decks to prevent the ship from sinking. So, you know, you had the old scene of a guy banging on the door, let me out, let me out, let me out, until the fucking water just rises above.
No, it's not. He's...
Yeah.
That's freaking brutal.
Yeah. But once the torpedoes had done their job, the chaos set in. As men dashed to their battle stations, unaware that the fight was already lost, they ran past fellow servicemen with melted flesh dripping from their faces and bones jutting through their skin.
Am I gonna make it back home?
Oh, my God.
Have we won the war?
Yes, Billy, we won. The war is over. You're at home now. Die. Just die.
Die.
Just die now.
Oh, they said in those initial moments, like the immediate screaming was horrifying, but at least in those initial moments, that screaming died within a couple of minutes because all of those guys died as well, and everyone else is just trying to save the ship.
Sounds like the bad guy from RoboCop who just melts and gets hit by the car and explodes.
Yeah. Now, Captain McVeigh believed in the immediate moment after the torpedo attacks that he could control the damage and save the ship, because after all, the USS Indianapolis had survived some pretty heavy blasts already. But since all communications went down immediately after the initial blast, Captain McVeigh had no idea how bad the damage in the engine room actually was. To put it into perspective, when the second torpedo hit, a colossal steam leak flash boiled any men who were unlucky enough to be in that section.
God, have you seen the remake of Flashdance, Flash Boiled?
That was such a great one. The way they dance and the temperature slowly rises
And they all
then
turn
inevitably
into
they melt.
dumplings.
Except for one nipple. That was such a powerful conclusion. The one nipple that stays on the stage.
And since all communications were down, there was also no way to send out a direct message telling any other ships what had happened, where they were, or that they needed immediate rescue.
Oh my God, yeah. They could have used an SOS, like the great song that the Police made.
Well, they actually did send out like a general SOS.
Okay.
But no one picked it up.
Nobody
Just
cared.
just no one was around to hear it. No one was around to
I
catch
see.
it. And it was
Sure.
just a general SOS of like, we don't know where we are. We don't know what happened. SOS, SOS, SOS. Like, because they didn't have time to give actual coordinates or anything. It's just SOS, 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 and the vague hope that someone would catch it. And nobody did.
Right.
So within 7 minutes of the initial strike, a commander arrived on the bridge from the engine room to tell McVeigh that the situation was hopeless. The order to abandon ship was given, but again, since all communications were down, the order had to be passed man to man.
I've given it all she's got, Captain. I've given it all she's got.
You know, if you ever play the game of telephone, the miscommunication that occurs, I'm sure one guy, just by the time it got to him, he's just like, what was that? Go to bed?
It's Taco Tuesday.
It's Taco Tuesday? That's what you wanted to tell me?
But Blam and Bip, no.
Oh, man, blam, blam, bip.
What?
The survivors began cutting down life preservers as the ship listed and sank further into the ocean, and they soon started hopping over the side into the open sea. But while the engine room was damaged beyond hope, the propellers of the USS Indianapolis were still pushing the ship forward.
Oh, no.
That meant that when all was said and done, the men who had jumped from the sinking ship were strung along a path of 2 miles in clumps of survivors. Some were lucky enough to escape with rafts, and some were able to grab life jackets, but many were simply left to swim. Others, however, chose to end it quickly. One machinist said that he saw 2 stewards leap over the back of the ship right into the twirling propellers, which instantly ripped both men to shreds.
Yikes.
Private Sanderson, do you remember when I taught you how to zag-zig?
Yeah?
Yes, I'll always remember, other Private Thompson. Let's go, baby.
Oh.
Let's go hand in hand, baby.
I don't know if it was that romantic.
No. These were only 2 of the approximately 300 men who died before the USS Indianapolis even went underwater. As the tail of the Indy finally sank into the sea, the suction pulled even more men down to a watery grave, and the surviving 890 were left to float in the waters 12 minutes after the first torpedo struck the ship.
What a difference 15 minutes can make.
I'll tell you what, if I was in there, I'd be
Wow.
like, hey, I didn't have this on my 1945 bingo card.
You are unbelievably talented. Toss-up question. Not of these survivors. Let's say you have to die within the first 12 minutes. How do you want to go? I'm thinking I almost just want to have the initial blast just
Yeah,
right in my
that's the
gut.
best.
Because everything else seems scarier.
You want to be right on the other side of the hull from the initial torpedo blast, because
So
then
it
you're
just takes you
you're
out.
you're just gone. The explosion, the pressure of the explosion just, shreds your body, and then you're done. You're just
Even
out.
the flash boiled is at least fast. At least it's a flash boil versus a slow poach.
Yeah,
like, that's
that's true.
fine. But honestly, I'd like to live so
Well,
I can go on the speaking tours.
Of course.
Now, in the immediate aftermath of the sinking, the 890 survivors found themselves to be in a sea covered in the fuel oil that had gushed from the Indy as it sank, all in a midnight darkness that only increased their fear. Furthermore, the survivors knew that sharks swam in these waters.
Oh my God. And those sharks belong to ExxonMobil.
Honestly.
And they want their oil back.
They wish they were as evil as those sharks. Real sharks are fairly neutral, but they're hungry. And I tell you what, there was more white tips in that ocean than there is on all of the heads of Less Than Jake.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Very good Less Than Jake reference.
Now, nobody escaped from the Indy completely unscathed, but some men were worse off than others. One crewman said that he found a close friend covered in flash burns that were so bad it looked as if his face was melting off.
Tell me, do you see anything weird? No. On my face?
No, Bob. Everything looks.
Is my mascara running or something?
No,
Some people keep turning away from me.
It's
I
actually.
keep saying they keep screaming and saying I remind them of a ghost.
Yeah, it's just so funny the way that they don't look in the mirror.
Come closer to me.
You know, I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm actually going to go zigzag.
Come closer to me.
All right, zag, bud.
Well, according to the survivor, his friend screamed in agony for an hour as oil and salt water filled his wounds before he finally and mercifully died.
I can't think of a worse tub to be in than salt water and oil. When you're covered in burns.
This also is a group of people that have immediately turned into the game over, man. Like guy immediately been like, we're fucked, man.
Yeah, I get it now.
Yeah. Now, the crew of the Japanese submarine was thrilled that they'd finally sunk a ship, and many of them wanted to go and finish what they'd started. Commander Hashimoto, however, wouldn't allow it. He said they'd already done their job.
Okay.
The submarine then sped away, leaving the men of the USS Indianapolis to 4 days of horror in the water.
Man.
This is fucking honesty. It does scare me, man.
It's
This shit scares the
horrifying,
shit
dude.
out of me.
Now, once the submarine left, the men took stock of their situation and found that they were clumped together in groups over a 2-mile-long oil slick, so far apart that many groups believed they were the only survivors.
Wow.
But even the groups that were closer together were only close for the first night. As the days stretched on, the groups drifted further apart, and by the first dawn, the survivors had already drifted 5 miles from the site of the sinking.
Rodney, I just feel like I don't even know you anymore. I just feel like we're drifting apart, literally.
I just wish I'd die.
Yeah, I actually was hoping that you would.
I'm melting and I'm all full of salt.
It's an emotional distancing we're having.
Those, however, were the smaller groups. Out of the 890 initial survivors, there was one large group that made up almost half of the men, some with life jackets and some just treading water, trying to survive as long as they could.
You're just like dog paddling. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm just dog
It's
paddling.
so
You're sitting
scary.
there. You try. You can't even really because also you're covered in oil.
Right.
You're covered in oil, and these life preservers are only built to last for 2 days in the water.
Well, as we know from the wonderful oil spills that happen on a regular basis, specifically, we can go to 1991 there? We had that little oil spill in the Gulf.
The Exxon spill? I think that was 89.
Maybe 89, either way. Oil likes to float.
Yeah.
Did it help at all?
Yeah.
When it comes
That's why,
to
honestly,
keeping people above water.
Well,
honestly.
we went to Italy. Do you remember how the boats sit on top of the water? Just because of the sheer sheen of their hair product, just like on the Mediterranean.
I know everyone is like, I want to be in Amsterdam. I want to be in the canal. And then you get there and you're like, that's the toilet. Which is true. But it's beautiful, though. I love it. I'm not going to diss it. I'm not dissing.
One thing the oil actually did is that it worked as a kind of light sunscreen. So the men who they did come out of the water, the survivors did come out of the water like horribly burned, but not as burned as they could have been.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Black Gold. Thank you.
But as it goes with military operations, officers took charge, and life jackets were tied to lines so the unvested could hold on.
Okay.
What few life rafts existed were mostly reserved for the most severely injured, although some life rafts sank when too many men tried climbing on.
Oh, my God. Big fat Tom was like, you get any room on there for me?
Actually,
It's
I
like,
shouldn't
oh
really
my
go
God,
on
dude,
there.
Can you not, please?
Listen, when I was on the deck, I twisted my ankle.
Oh, my dude.
I'm really going to need to get
Can
on
you
this
get
raft.
up? No. Okay.
The officers then told the men to resist the urge to vomit up the ungodly amounts of seawater and oil that they'd already swallowed, because they had no idea when they would be rescued, and the preservation of fluids was priority number one.
Wow.
One interesting observation made by one of the survivors, though, is that for the most part, the men who lived to tell the tale were the younger ones. That wasn't because they were stronger, but rather because they didn't know enough to know just how fucked they were. They
Because
still had optimism. They still
Because
had
what it
hope.
seemed like is that the scariest part was especially the night.
Yeah.
is that when the first night came, it's like I was listening to some of these survivors like talk, and it is harrowing. And just like, one guy's like, in the night, you don't know what happened. I was next to Uncle Ed. I called him Uncle Ed. He was only 2 years older than me, but I called him Uncle Ed. He was my friend. And in the night, he was gone. Damn. And then there was Canada Joe. He was from Detroit.
Oh.
And I said, hey, Canada Joe, hey, where are you? Where are you? And he was gone. It's very scary.
Damn.
So by morning, the survivors had drifted 10 miles from the sinking site in 3 main groups and even more smaller ones. And each of these groups was commanded by officers. And the men commanding the largest groups were Glenn Morgan, Felton Outland, and Richard Redmayne.
Are these all just born to be commanders in the U.S. Navy? Do you just get a certain last name and then you're made to be an officer?
Yeah. Richard Redmayne is like one of the best World War II names. Glenn Morgan, Captain Glenn Morgan.
Captain Glenn Morgan. Captain Glenn Morgan, sometimes it's suck dick, but only in Italy.
Whoa, good Morgan to you.
Now, as I said, some groups had life rafts, but others only had jackets. One group, made up only of jacketed survivors, lost a third of their men by the first morning and soon found themselves surrounded by a school of floating corpses that refused to go away.
Well, it's because they were tied to them sometimes, right? And then they would just float and float and float. They died of dehydration. They died of shock. They died from their injuries. So they started building up, especially in that first day. But then it just seems like having a bunch of just sort of like meat around would be bad.
Yeah. As far as Captain McVeigh went, he was relatively lucky. His group was only 9 men strong, and they managed to escape with a life raft, a sheet of canvas to gather rainwater, some morphine, a bit of brackish water, and enough emergency rations to last 10 days.
I got a film projector. I got a torpedo. I actually have a full toilet seat.
Yes.
So we can actually enjoy that. And also, I saved this bag of croutons.
Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, they're on a carnival cruise compared to what other people are going through.
Yeah, as far as the men in the water went, they very quickly began spotting the shadowy forms of sharks swimming below. Now, this area of the ocean was home to 6 species of shark, but the most likely culprit here was the oceanic white tip, what you might call shark classic. When you imagine a shark, this is what you imagine.
Long dorsal fin, very aggressive.
Yeah.
Called the Yogore by the Japanese in an assemblage of kanji characters that convey the words pollute, defile, and rape. The white tip is the worst possible shark to show up in this situation.
But sometimes you don't get the shark you wish for. You get the shark that shows up.
I guess so.
Yeah, because you want the titty and money and food shark to show up. That'd be nice.
I don't think there is a shark like that.
I mean, not yet, but science will prevail.
It could.
The hammerhead is quite a nice shark. The hammerhead is a very nice shark. There's actually very nice sharks out there, but the white tip is not one that you want to fuck with, really.
We're not saying that the white tip's the evil. I think because we're going to have to dial back some of the talk about sharks being like killing machines, which is why they're overfished and all that shit. But honestly, when it comes down to it, can you help these sharks? Can these sharks help it? You have all these like bleeding, screaming, pink, like, because they have to remove all their clothes too. They don't even have clothes in the way.
My.
They're all just like out there just treading water. It's like if you left 5 cheeseburgers in front of Kissel's house and expect him not to get kidnapped. You know what I mean? Like if someone to grab him and they just scooped him up with a crate.
Yeah, you got to get the burgers.
This is simply nature. This is 890 men entering the food chain, and this is what happens. Now, white tips are usually loners, but when a food source is plentiful, as it was in the aftermath of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, white tips form groups for the feeding frenzy to come.
Oh, they're going out to dinner with friends.
Yeah.
It is like that.
And as far as the sharks were concerned, they just found a 2-mile-long bucket of chum.
Oh my God.
Besides the burns, men had suffered from broken limbs and wide gashes, which all pumped a constant stream of blood into the ocean waters. And sharks can smell blood from a quarter-mile away. So you have a 2-mile-long stretch of men all bleeding, and out of those 2 miles, quarter-mile in each direction, shark.
Honestly, that's really lucky for those sharks because all I ever smell is blood.
You're gonna want to get that checked out.
I just smell blood. I see blood everywhere I look. Looks like it's covered in blood.
It's a hell of a time to be a shark here.
And the broken limbs and gashes were the best case scenario injuries. At worst, you had the fate of Officer Stanley Lipsky. His eyes appeared to have boiled in their sockets.
Oh, no!
And what was left of his hands were nothing more than charred meat clinging to bones.
Oh my god,
that he was
dude.
that the whole time he was kind of like the nerd from Toxic Avenger too, where he was just like the guy that walking around, the lovable nerdy guy who's just like, you guys want to play a game of chess? And they're like, get out of here, we're zigzagging. And then he goes into the water and he's covered with burns.
But he
and
doesn't
shit.
turn into a superhero, dude.
No,
he turns
just
into
screams.
He turns into technically, in chef's terms, he was charred.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It brought out the natural sugars.
I'm sure it's very good.
Meanwhile, Allied codebreakers had intercepted a vague message from Commander Hashimoto saying that he'd scored 3 hits on a ship and sunk it. Now, this was a slight exaggeration, and Japanese commanders were known to exaggerate successes to lure American ships on search and rescue missions. So, hoping that this was just one of those things, the intercepted transmission became just one of the 500 received that day alone. But even if they'd made it a priority, they didn't have the type of vessel, they didn't have the location. It was impossible to know what exactly happened. There was no reason for them to go out and look.
You never want your search and rescue team to be like, let's table it. We'll circle back.
Yeah, let's circle back.
We'll circle back
Yeah.
and table that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But what's most distressing about the sinking of the Indy is that when it did not arrive on time to its destination in the Philippines, its name was simply taken off the board, which, at the time, was Navy policy. See, there were thousands of ships in the Pacific, and reporting the arrival and departure of every single ship had resulted in too much communication. So, when the Indy didn't arrive on time, which, by the way, wasn't that unusual anyway, no one noticed.
Didn't they have like a week lead time or something? There was like something that was like, if it was a week late, they'd know. But then if it's like but a week, if they had went
That's
a week.
so late.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In other words, nobody was coming for the badly injured survivors of the USS Indianapolis. And they were starting to notice the sharks swimming below.
Yeah, this one survivor kept saying he felt the shark start to nudge his feet. Because I was watching a bunch of footage of white tips, and it's like they're cool, right? Like
They're
you know,
cool
the
when
David
you're not around
Attenborough. If he did his show, whatever his show is, David Attenborough, and it's all been like, can you see the absolute delight that the sharks take in taunting the photographer? And so like they're like going after this photographer who's fucking nuts, and these white tips bump you to see how you react. And so there was one survivor talking about how like he was floating, and at first you'd feel them come up and touch your feet, and you try to pull your feet up to get away from them, but it's like then you just get used to it. Because you just like, fuck it, let them touch my feet. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? You know, honestly, maybe I'll ride it.
Flip it and reverse it. Pretend you like it.
But even if someone had noticed that they didn't show up, the survivors had already floated 20 miles from the sinking site by the evening of the first day. But now, by accounts, the first group attacked by a shark was Buck Gibson's. A shark barreled up from below and locked its jaws around the hand of Cozell Smith, dragging him 10 feet below the surface in an instant.
So fucking scary.
Very scary.
Refusing to let the shark win, Smith punched it in the nose. Woo! But still, the shark snapped its head back and forth in an attempt to saw off Smith's hand with its teeth.
That's from what I gathered from when I was watching. That's how sharks, they do it. They bite in and then they shake their head back and forth like a saw.
Yeah.
Finally, though, Smith jabbed his finger into a soft spot on the shark's body, and the shark let go. But Smith's ordeal wasn't over. When he emerged from the water with a bloody, shredded hand, the men in the Gibson group told him to stay away because they knew enough about sharks to know that blood would only attract more sharks.
But I'm getting dizzy, man. I need to stay with you, man. I gotta fucking let me hold on to the lifesaver, man.
So when Smith tried rejoining the circle, they kicked and clubbed him. But since he had so much adrenaline from the shark attack, he managed to make it to the middle of a floater net. And that is when another sailor pulled out a knife and attempted to murder Cozell Smith.
Damn, dude.
Dude, this is just the tip of it, man. Realizing that his only chance of survival was to go it alone, Smith swam about 100 feet away from the group with no life jacket. kicking his feet to stay afloat until he very quickly sunk and died.
And the whole time he's just like, guess I'll just be over here alone while you guys are all over there. I'm just going to sit here. And what I'm going to do is sing a song about floating in the ocean till I die. Never gonna let you sleep.
Wow. He
It
could have
slowly disappears.
Yeah, of course. Some shark repellent.
Yeah.
Shark repellent.
No, but he was shark attractant.
Yeah, he was shark attract. I mean, I understand the tough decisions that have to be made.
Of course.
In very difficult times. It just sucks.
Oh, no, it's a
Yeah.
fucked situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rise from your grave.
Well, in the group led by Richard Redmayne, a survivor named Harpo Celaya said that the sharks had effectively set up a patrol. While Harpo closed his eyes, waiting for death, he said that he heard a scream unlike any he'd heard before, which turned out to be the sound of a man being eaten alive by sharks.
So you do make a sound if you're being eaten alive, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not... it's not good.
Oh, man.
But I will say, to be fair to the sharks, they say a lot of it is you can't really estimate how many people were eaten alive.
No.
But a lot of them were eaten dead. And the thing is that sharks are not exactly asking questions and filling out customer surveys to
They don't
see
have any
who's
hands.
alive and who's dead. So they don't really know who's alive and who's dead. I actually think they would probably prefer the dead ones because it's easier for them to pull it down, then they can do the group munch, and then it's gone. Where it's
Yeah.
like a thing's still kicking and screaming, it's still difficult to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the fresher the better.
I don't know if sharks care. I don't think they care. I think they would probably. I know scientists say that the sharks probably ate more dead men than living men, but the fact remains that sharks ate a fuck of a lot of living men. And
Oh, yeah,
bit
man.
a lot of
500 people were dead. 500 people died.
When men came out of the water, they were covered in shark bites.
Sure.
So it was not.
They give little nips.
Yeah.
They give little nips to see,
Yeah.
they get little chunks to see what
it's
kind of
nice-
meat you are.
It's nice the water is already salt water because, little sharks with little fins, they can't be Salt Bay. They can't sprinkle the bodies with any kind of spice. Or...
How far away from Salt Bay are you at all times? Like, in your mind?
I
Like,
think about
how
Salt
often
Bay
do you
often.
think of Salt
But I
Bay?
also don't like him because I heard the meat's not very good.
No, it's not. Its restaurant was panned by critics.
So I actually don't really care for him. But I do think about the Salt Bay sometimes.
You do. I know you do.
Yeah. Now, amidst the chaos, there were moments of true courage. Some men kept their heads and swam around their groups, encouraging, assisting, and comforting others when they could, while others loaned their life jackets to the more exhausted men until they could catch their breath.
Okay.
But there was another side to that. While some groups, like Captain McVeigh's, got away with plenty of food to survive, others had little more than half a cracker and a single malted milk ball per day. Inevitably, some men began stealing and hoarding, which led to fights and eventually murders.
Yeah, there was one survivor who talked about floating away because it was very dangerous to float away from the groups because that made you very vulnerable to sharks. So he found a crate, and inside of it, he found a bunch of rotted potatoes.
Oh.
But he knew he had to keep it secret. So he'd be like, come here. And they would go and they'd all eat all of these rotted potatoes and try to keep it down inside of them to keep living.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Buck Gibson's horror was only beginning. When the sun came up on the second day, he saw the bare bones of a young sailor's leg. A shark had eaten it in the night. And when he jostled the boy, Gibson found that the boy was long dead. Although Gibson did keep that body next to him for the entire time they were in the water because he wanted to return the body to the family. It was
that's
one of those
nice.
like old World War II promises.
There's a lot
He
of
didn't
those
want
guys.
to he didn't want to have like a weekend at Bernie's with him. I wonder how many times. I mean, I guess you talked to the corpses probably.
Oh, I imagine at night the loneliness would set in. You'd talk to anybody who was available, but that was fairly common. People were trying to keep the dead bodies as much as they could, but the problem is the dead bodies brought the sharks.
Right, right.
Over at McVeigh's group, he began hearing the yelling of men about 1,500 yards away. So amidst a group of 5 sharks circling their raft, they managed to paddle over so McVeigh could do his duty as a captain. But after 4.5 hours of arduous paddling, McVeigh found that the yelling men were not injured, but merely lonely.
Tell me, Captain, I'm so glad you're here. Tell me if you were gonna be a candy bar. Which candy bar would you be?
I'd be a fucking I'd be a smack you around because you have any idea how many people are dying out here? You're lonely.
Wait, Captain. This is actually so important. Captain, it's so important. If you met Marilyn Monroe, what would you say?
I am so mad at you right now.
Well, I'm pretty sure McVeigh believed that they were one of the only survivors. Like, because remember, they were so far apart from each other.
Right.
That ship, when they were jumping off that ship, that fucker was cruising. So when he heard the yelling, he's like, oh, there's more survivors. And it just goes like, oh, hey, but just kind of bored.
What you want on your tombstone?
Oh my God.
I'm having pepperoni.
I am so done with you.
Now, the group that you'd think would be doing relatively okay was Felton Outland's group, because they were a tight cluster of 4 life rafts. But the constant bumping together was creating friction that would eventually destroy the boats. And some of the men were already starting to lose it by the second day. Because as Henry said, they knew they were fucked and they knew no one was coming. So in order to both save the life rafts and to distance himself from the increasingly unstable men, Outland ordered his group to distance themselves for the time being.
Okay.
This is all it is interesting because in a way, it feels like schoolyard tactics too, where everybody has to cordon off and go into groups. Like everyone has to make sure
children,
that they
I think.
Yeah, there's a very young. A lot of them are very young.
Yeah.
Well, when you get to survival mode, everything becomes very primitive.
Right.
Yeah, and very childlike. So it does, things like that do happen quite often.
Yeah, do you remember when we almost ran out of granola bars that one show?
Oh my.
St. Paul, I'll always remember 2016. We all had a fight over that one last granola bar, and I just remember the look in your eyes. They were black.
Okay, very good.
You got your one. That's your one.
Don't mess with
Congratulations.
Marcus's snacks. That is very
No, that
true.
is true. That is
very
Well,
true.
I mean, I just, it's,
He did flip out when we ate the other sneaker.
I didn't
Snickers.
flip out.
I
I didn't
did
flip
not
out at
even-
all. I merely asked, did you eat all of the Snickers? Did you eat all of them? How did you guys eat all of the Snickers? We had like 4 of them.
I'm actually happy that he honestly said that the way that he said it to us. I was not complicit in the Snickers thieving, but
I
that
ate
was
the
the
Snickers.
that was the
But
accusatory.
it was over
tone.
2 days.
And then,
No, it was the first day.
No,
It
it was
was
the
the
second
first
day.
day.
It was
No,
the
it
second
was-
day you came in looking for Snickers. This is what happened out there. This is what happened to the crew of the USS Indianapolis.
okay,
Meanwhile, Richard
maybe
Redmayne.
leave the Snickers alone.
I
You know,
was
Marcus
there
likes
for
it.
me to eat.
No, just leave one. Just leave one.
Maybe
That's
just
all
leave
I'm
I
one.
asking
did
for.
leave
Just
one and then I ate it because he didn't get to it fast enough.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Richard Redmayne, leader of one of the largest groups, he had himself lost his grip on reality by the second day. And he would periodically cry out that he needed to get to the fucking engine room.
It's so wet in this engine room. Somebody get me to the engine room.
There's a term for that, though, isn't there? Losing your mind.
Delirium.
at sea?
It's delirium.
Yeah, delirium.
It's full on delirium. Like the vivid nature of their hallucinations cannot be understated. It's crazy how vivid. We'll get to the hallucinations later, but it was like full on vivid mirage, like not seeing shit that was not there.
I've said this in more woo-woo circumstances, but the idea of like perception being reality is very interesting, and you can really see when you push the mind to its breaking point, what it can physically see as a certainty in front of it is wild.
But you know what's kind of sad? It's like when you dream that you're like in school, and in reality, you can dream that you're in space. Or,
Oh, yeah.
And you can dream that you're a shark. But it would be nice if you didn't just have delirium where it's like, oh, I think I'm at work. That sucks.
It does suck.
You could think of, I mean, you know, imagine the man that you're looking at with big old boobs, and like imagine him being a woman, and then you kiss and kiss and kiss. But
Some guys did that, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay,
but it was
good.
not.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
good
not
for them.
good. No,
It
it
wasn't
good.
good.
for
It was
them.
not-
It wasn't
it
good.
was
It was not
bad.
good. It was very.
It
very,
wasn't
very bad.
zagzagging. Zagzagging is consensual.
it was bad. Okay.
But Richard Redmayne's breakdown was understandable because his men were dying at a rapid pace. Half of the 140 men that Redmayne had started with were on rafts, but the rest were on floater nets. By the second day, most of the men on the nets were beginning to sink and die beneath the waves, which the waves were a problem in their own right.
Oh my God, it's so
The
scary.
waves were 10 to 12 foot swells, constantly rolling up and down, hour after hour. This caused intense nausea, which was only made worse by the consumption of fuel oil and seawater, not to mention the smell produced by hundreds of floating, rotting corpses. And as we said, vomiting meant death by dehydration.
Wow.
So they were like literally eating their own vomit.
Yeah. In addition, every group was also forced to periodically hear maddening screams every time a shark decided to take another man. But the group that perhaps had it the hardest was the one led by Corporal Edgar Harrell. His men, numbering 80 to begin with, swam the entire time with no rafts or floater nets to keep them above water.
That's so hard. And you must get so tired too. You must get so tired in the idea of just letting go and just going into the water just becomes, that is the welcome alternative.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. By the second day, half of Edgar's men had already died, but their bodies refused to float away, forcing the survivors to exist within a sea of corpses.
And you wonder why this generation went ahead and gave over nature to the oil companies?
Yeah, maybe.
Now, the sharks were certainly the most terrifying way that these men died over the course of the 4 days they spent in the ocean. But sharks were not the biggest worry that the survivors had.
That's how you sell the story. The sharks' attacks are like why everybody even knows about the USS Indianapolis.
That gets you in the door. Yeah.
Yeah. The worst enemy here was dehydration.
Yeah, dehydration as an enemy is like if that was
like
the
it's like
end of
Alzheimer's is the enemy. You know?
Like that M. Night Shyamalan movie that's just called Old, which looks absolutely horrible. But if it turns out it's just like it was dehydration the whole time, this movie sucks.
Well, he had the other movie was just about spores.
That's true. So it is possible.
Yeah, and the whole thing with signs was water.
Water.
Throw the
Wow,
boy
it is
down.
going to be
It
that.
is going to be dehydration.
It is.
Yeah. Wow.
Many of the men were so dehydrated that their tongues swelled. And in the delirium and madness that followed, some sailors irrationally began drinking seawater, even though they knew full well that drinking seawater is 100% fatal. See, when a person doesn't ingest fluids, the level of salt in their body increases, which makes them even thirstier. Then, when still no fluid comes, water begins rushing from the body's cells to fill the gap. Next, brain cells tear loose, which greatly impairs your judgment. And that is how sailors came to believe that drinking seawater was a good idea.
And that's why having a wet ass pussy means you're healthy.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Like a
This, of
wet
cour-
nose on a dog.
That is great.
That's nice.
Well, drinking the seawater, of course, only introduced more salt, making them more thirsty, which made them drink more salt water.
It's a vicious, ironic cycle.
Eventually, blood vessels would tear and fluid would build up in their brains, causing seizures and insanity. They finally vomited uncontrollably, foamed at the mouth, and died of kidney failure, amongst other possible deaths. One Indy survivor was so dehydrated that his eyes bulged from his sockets, making it impossible for him to close his eyelids, and his seawater splashed and the sun burned his eyeballs. He could do nothing but scream.
Jesus. You're going to want some blue blockers. Oh, my God.
Get him some sunglasses.
Please, Lord.
And I say he could do nothing but scream. That's if his tongue wasn't so swollen that it came out of his mouth.
And the whole time you're like, Steve, you're being a bummer right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a bummer situation, so I think I'm just calling it like it is.
No, you have to say it like Steve. It's hard out there, man.
It is hard.
But there was one guy who talked about the way he saved himself from the glare of the ocean water because he said it was blinding during the day, especially when the sun was high. You couldn't see anything because of the reflection of the sun from the water. He would take off his socks and he would just lay them over his face.
Yeah.
Okay.
All day long. By the third day, a smaller group, led by a man named Haynes, succumbed to a group hallucination that was both optimistic and deadly.
Okay.
They convinced themselves that the Indy hadn't sunk at all and was in fact anchored intact just below the surface of the water.
SpongeBob.
Oh,
What's more is that they also started believing there's an underwater hotel down there. And you can take your pick of ice cream, candy bars, and Coca-Cola. They even got a root beer stand down there. They got free root beer floats, and it's all served by pinup girls.
Dude,
Come on
actually,
down here. Hey, you're my friend. I got plenty of food and stuff down here. And come down and visit my district and visit my police department.
I mean, that's kind of a fun group thought, as far as the collective unconscious goes. Kind of a good time there.
Well, the problem with this hallucination is that men began swimming underwater to actually look for these things. And the men in the group who had kept their heads, they spent hours chasing down divers lest they drown in their fantastical search.
And if you know anything about the show alone, you know that that's burnt calories. And the more calories you burn when you go down there, you're expending all of this extra energy to get the dudes back in the pocket as they've left to go crazy. You're just making yourself more and more tired.
Sure. And this was one of the lucky groups. The groups without water, some as small as 17 men, couldn't even talk to each other because their tongues had swollen so much from dehydration.
It's this kind of night that we get to have these quiet moments.
It is a little bit nice.
Isn't this nice, honestly? Because we don't need to always fill silence with sound.
Yes, thank
Even
you.
though I'm still doing it,
Why
but
don't we just be quiet?
What was more is that the life jackets, made to last at most 2 to 3 days, were beginning to lose their buoyancy. Now, this was bad news to the Redmayne group, where a dozen men were attacked by a frenzy of sharks on the third day, while all the nearby men could do was cover their ears until the screaming stopped.
Oh my God.
Perhaps the oddest reaction that some of the men had in the face of death was the aggressive sexual advances. Again, in the Redmayne group, which seemed to be lapping against the jaws of hell. Survivor Harpo Salaya said that a sailor lunged at him, quote, demanding sexual congress in lewd terms.
You literally take me out to dinner first. Like, literally get me food and give me a fucking fish to eat.
All I know is that of all of the shit you'd think you'd be safe from in the water, right? In this situation.
Don't forget, we are dealing with the Navy here. Share Force.
No, we are pro.
We have ton. We probably have more listeners in the Navy than any other thing.
But the idea that you're out there and then you're just floating because again you're all nude, and just the idea of getting horny in the scenario, like I don't know how you get horny. Why don't you just jerk off or something?
Oh, there's no way you could pull a tube in out there.
Yeah, I mean, demanding sexual congress in lewd terms, it's just a guy lunging at him saying, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me.
Or I fuck you, I fuck you.
Terrifying.
Oh
Terrifying.
my God. Okay.
Hey, buddy, hey, you want to play up Periscope? That's how you softly ask.
Sure.
And at the same time that this guy was aggressively propositioning Harpo, several sailors in the same group started attacking each other with fists and knives, spilling blood and attracting even more sharks.
Why did they have knives? Why would they use knives on these rescue boats?
Oh, it's because you need them.
It seems very dangerous.
Use utility knives.
I mean, these are floating men. Like that. Some of the men were floating. Some of the men were on nets. Some of the men were in inflatable boats. There was a lot of different shit going on. And also, nobody's thinking straight.
No. Right.
Yeah. Well, luckily for Harpo, he managed to escape the group. But the book we use for this series does allude to several survivors demanding sexual favors from other men throughout their 4 days on the water.
I can only describe it as like day 3 of Bonnaroo.
I guess at that point you wonder if you're going to die out there and you kind of just want one more sexual
How could
experience.
you even get hard?
I think it's just a closeness, and I think that would probably be what you're craving, like a closeness to another human being. They really want cuddles, I would imagine.
The feel of intimacy.
Yeah, the feel of intimacy.
But you don't got to do it at knife point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where it's bad.
Well, that's where it's very bad.
Where
Yeah.
we should be a band of brothers all sucking each other.
Yes, that would be very nice. Sure.
Honestly, it would be nice, but also this is the point where they couldn't even untie their fucking once the life preservers started getting too sogged up.
Yeah.
Their skin was starting to fall apart. They were starting to melt within the water and shit. So they would try to untie the knots of their life preservers, and their skin would just kind of slough off, so they couldn't even handle the cord.
Oh my God! Now you're getting me horny.
Yeah, no, everyone loves sloughing. Now, when it came to the size of the sharks attacking the men, the smaller ones were the most aggressive. Those were 3 to 4 feet long, and they snatched any man who floated away from the group, killing him bite by bite.
This is like being single at the club.
Oh, my.
The larger ones, however, were terrifying in their own way. Measuring up to 20 feet long, those would swim right up to a group, inspect a victim, then instantly devour him before the man even had a chance to scream.
Not it.
Oh, yeah, don't like this guy. Don't like this guy. He don't smell
Shark.
good.
I taste horrible, shark.
Well, because we're also we're not the natural food of sharks. Normally they would
Yeah, they don't
would
like
not
us.
eat it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't taste good to any sort of apex predator.
That's why usually when you die of a shark attack, they take a one bite and they're like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah, blah.
but
Yeah.
the damage is done.
Man, honestly, you're just free ass food.
Yeah. So by the afternoon of August 1st, the men had been in the water for 64 hours.
Wow.
And they were now 60 miles from the sinking site.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
furthest distance between the groups on each end of the oil slick was 30 miles. By this point, the Redmayne group had shrunk from 200 survivors to 40. In that group, fatal fights regularly erupted, and rumors were abound of men holding down others to rape them in the life rafts. Oh, God. Like I said, this is the one, like, Redmayne's group opened a gate to hell. Like, there was something horrific there that took a hold of these men that did not take other groups in this manner.
Okay.
This is also why the survivor
Except
story
Bug
was
Gibson's group. Bug Gibson had some pretty fucking awful shit, too.
But that's why this story was kind of hidden for years. There was a lot of secret shame that went on with the survivors of what happened during this sinking, because they were shattered by what they saw of human nature in the water. Like, it really fucked with everybody. Nobody wanted to talk about this shit.
Yeah. Well, those still in the water were beginning to sink from a lack of buoyancy, and some had exposed bone where small fish had constantly nipped at their fingers and toes over the previous 3 days. As far as those fish went, and the sharks too for that matter, they actually preferred to feast on corpses. Buck Gibson said he would see small, colorful fish swarm a corpse before a shark swooped in to tear the dead body in half.
It's Nemo.
Oh, I love that part of Finding Nemo.
Afterward, the smaller fish would coalesce around the leftover pieces to nibble the flesh from the dismembered bodies. And that, my friends, is when the cannibalism started.
He did it again. He did it again.
Whoa, he did it. That's cool. Wow. That's a titular line.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's bad.
Yeah. One man in Buck Gibson's group lost his mind to such an extent that he slit the throat of another survivor just to drink his blood.
Oh, my.
And another cut someone else's wrists for the same purpose.
Open sea vampire.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's so much sun. They would be damaged greatly.
It's the new ones where they just sparkle.
Oh, I don't like that. Vampires have to have some flaws. Otherwise, they're just having sex with all of our wives and they're looking good. They can't go out in the sun. That's the only, they have to have some kind of problem.
One of the best reimagining of a vampire story is a new movie I just saw called Your Heart Beats Because I Tell It To. It's very good.
Okay.
That's a good title. Well, after only 3 days at sea, Gibson said that between heaving swells that brought the horror in and out of his sight, he saw a man in another raft eat one of his fellow servicemen.
Oh, my gosh.
3 days!
3 days.
He waited.
It's just, it doesn't seem
you
like
can
it
go
was
like
that
a
long.
month without eating.
It's
Yeah.
very scary. Like, I feel like there is a
This
there's
guy was going to
point
eat
in
somebody
time-
anyway. At some point, this guy was going to eat a person.
Some people are just looking for a reason to pop off. I do
I
agree.
agree, yeah.
But there's also, this is so scary. You're free floating. And I also believe that the delusional part of this really fuels it, right? It's the dehydration.
Yeah.
It's the constant movement. There's no rest. So you're exhausted. There's barely any sleep. Everybody's falling apart at the seams, but you'd like to think we wouldn't immediately eat each other, but just that scene of like floating, and then each time the other wave crests, you see the guy fucking stab a guy in another life raft, and then people probably staying back. Probably people try not to get involved.
Well, the nipples can be kind of a pepperoni, I suppose, if you flip it in your head.
Yeah.
Have a nipple. I might have a nipple.
Yeah, I guess,
someone
man.
threw me a
yeah,
nickel.
yeah, Kissel, I fucking guess.
Yeah. Well, after the cannibalism began, the men began making pacts with each other. They all agreed, at least the ones in the Gibson group, they all agreed that any man who became dangerous to the others due to hallucinations or madness would immediately be killed.
Ooh, they're going to vote him off the island.
Permanently.
Yeah.
He would be put in a headlock and a knife would be inserted under his armpit into the heart, which was deemed the most humane way of execution that they could manage at least.
Wow.
Multiple men were killed in this way, but instead of saving more survivors, the executioners themselves became warped and deranged, accelerating the madness within their group.
Because they just had to kill their buddy. Like, they had to kill the guy that they
Jeez.
knew, the guy that they have been serving with for a certain period of time. I know that this was a new crew on the USS Indianapolis, but still, like, these are guys you've gotten to know, like, in the beginning of the Nick Cage movie. But those guys I kind of wanted to see die.
I would
because
want
it was badly scripted.
I mean, when I was taking Greyhound buses, I mean, I don't know them. I still want to stab them in the heart. Mm-hmm. It's really traumatizing to me.
I honestly think that makes you different than 65% of the people on the Greyhound buses.
Yeah.
Now, really, the USS Indianapolis is not a story that any of us should have heard. The odds were greatly in favor of these men sinking to the bottom of the sea, where their deaths would have been nothing more than a large number without a tail. But the survivors of the Indy were extraordinarily, impossibly lucky.
They are.
Just when McVeigh's group were using their flares to light cigarettes scrounged from a case of Lucky Strikes that had floated by,
Oh.
another group spotted a black speck moving along the horizon. Now, the survivors had seen planes flying overhead relatively often during their time in the water, but all of the planes were too high to see the men floating below. But this pilot, a man named Lieutenant Gwynn, spotted the oil slick from his Navy bomber and decided to investigate. See, Gwynn hadn't heard of any ships being destroyed in the area, but a large oil slick implied that a ship had in fact been destroyed.
Well, technically, that mission, when he saw the oil slick, he had thought maybe this was a ship that we had already popped. Right, so he was gonna go finish the job. They armed the missiles to the plane when they came back around. So they saw it circle, and then they saw it come back, and all of the survivors like, they're coming for us, they're coming for us. But the first thing that the impulse of the pilot was like, we're gonna finish off these fuckers that are down there, and we're just gonna bomb them, whatever's left in the water. Until what he saw, I guess the pilot said it looked like a bunch of coconuts. In the water.
Little
And then
black
he
dots.
saw them. Yeah, and then he saw them. I was like, oh, those coconuts have arms.
Oh, arms or coconuts with arms.
And then he called in and he said, there's ducks in the pond.
there's ducks in the pond. Oh my.
That was a code. The code was transmitted to all the ships in the area that assistance was needed, and the survivors of the USS Indianapolis were finally saved. 1,100 men went into the water. 316 men come out.
Yeah, you did it.
Wow, that's awesome. Ducks in the pond, not to be mistaken for dogs in a bath. That is just fantastic.
Well, they also, and a lot of guys talked about how that was the scariest part of all this.
That's
Was
what
getting
Quentin
rescued?
said.
Yes.
That was when I was most terrified.
There's another loser.
The waiting to get on the boat.
Yeah, he did it.
That is the question. So the guy is like, yeah, we got a bunch of turtles in the lake over here, whatever he called it. And then how long was this rescue mission?
A few days.
So they had to hang out, but
Some of them
they
did.
were rescued.
They took the worst injured first.
Yeah.
But they had to do it in a scary fucking way.
Yeah. Now, the odds of rescue for the men of the Indy was truly 1 in a billion. For this to happen, the sea had to be abnormally smooth, the sunlight had to hit the oil in just the right way, and Lieutenant Gwynn's plane had to be at just the right altitude. And for me, this begs the question as to how many times this happened where there were no survivors.
Well,
And that's
let's
not just
ask-
American
well,
ships.
Yeah, let's not even think about that.
Yeah. It's been
Is it
like
happening
this.
right now?
Oh, yeah. It might be happening right now.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. That's not just American ships. That's ships of any nationality. And that's also not just World War II. That's the history of naval travel.
Right.
How many times did this happen?
It's really scary to think just how difficult it is to find somebody floating on the ocean. That it's really
yes,
hard.
Man. Absolutely.
And still, even when Lieutenant Gwynn called in the shipwreck, nobody knew that the Indy was even missing. By the end of the first day, 52 men were rescued, emaciated, shark-bitten, and covered in oozing sores.
They had to put him on a water plane came, right? They circled around. They circled back around, and the water plane came, and it was not supposed to hold 52 people in the first go. They had to tie them to the wings.
Wow.
They literally had to tie them to the outside of the plane. So you have just been, you've just been in the water for 3 days.
This is the rescue?
Yes, and now you are flying in the air.
I don't think they took off with them on the wings. I
Yes,
think
they did. They tied them up.
Dumbo shit right
No,
there.
I think they tied. And you know what? So what's funny, Ben, is that the name of the Navy rescue team, Dumbo.
No kidding.
Cute.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that nice?
Yeah.
Named after that sad elephant.
Took her mother.
Wow.
Well, the oil on their bodies was so thick that it had to be heated before it could be removed. And those were the men who still had skin.
Yeah. The guys who still had skin, they were always bragging about how
Oh my
they
God,
had skin. You don't have skin.
Floating in salt water for 4 days is akin to taking an acid bath. And some men's skin simply slid off their bodies when they were pulled out of the water.
Now, what do you do then? What do you do there?
You get a Band-Aid, man.
You get a graft, I think, or you might just die.
I think they just put you in sea shea butter.
Yeah, a lot of guys after they were rescued, like they survived their time in the water, and they just died on the ship. Yeah,
Right.
It was just the worst, the worst.
I guess.
And what made matters worse was a particular asshole by the name of Wren who grilled some of the survivors like enemy agents when they were brought onto his ship. Even after a survivor had his flesh and muscle pulled from his bones when he was brought out of the water, Wren still screamed questions in his face, asking him what his ship was and what city the Dodgers played in.
What the fuck do I give a shit? You want me to tell you what in that era, probably Brooklyn.
Dodgers.
Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Dodgers. But for the most part, the search and rescue crews were gracious, and the men were gracious in their rescue. The sailors of the USS Doyle gave up their bunks for the survivors, and the survivors, when they were finally given water for the first time, they drank just the minimum amount, said, "I got mine," and then passed the bottle to the next man.
Oh, that's nice.
By the final tally, approximately 300 men died in the initial torpedo attack, while 579 died in the water.
Yikes.
And even the men who were rescued had PTSD so bad that some of them couldn't even take a bath for the remainder of their lives.
I'd certainly avoid the beach.
Yeah, that's true. So remember that when you run into someone, maybe they stink a little bit, but maybe don't judge them. Maybe they were
a survivor of the
sea
USS
for
Indianapolis. So they're 97 years old.
Maybe.
There are 5 men left on Earth who remember the that were on the USS Indianapolis, and they're all in their 80s.
But everyone has their own struggles. Everyone
is
has
true.
their own USS
true.
Indianapolis.
That is true.
Don't they?
Ooh.
But there was an interview I saw with one guy, like when someone just like suggested, "Do you ever go near the water?" He looked terrified. He's still to this day. I mean, he was in his 80s, and he looked here. He goes, "Oh, me and water don't get along. I don't go near water. Nope.
Just like Jason Voorhees.
They were deeply, traumatized is a small word for what they were like afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely life-altering, life-changing. They'll never be the same again.
Yeah.
And also, My Pillow came from it. So I'm
Oh, isn't that nice? I love that guy who does all the drugs.
I mean, the documentary, the PBS documentary is let's say the PBS documentary is a little candy coated.
Well, it focuses a lot on like, we have a new submarine. We're gonna find the USS Indianapolis.
Yeah,
We're gonna
and
go
they
find it,
found
which is
it.
like probably the last thing that they want to see.
I never want to see that damn boat again.
No, they did. They brought in guys that were on the USS Indianapolis. The co-founder of Microsoft, like, did a James Cameron, went and found it himself. And they brought in these old men to, like, look at it. And some of them were like, whoa, that's amazing. I remember that. I remember being on that deck.
God,
I
that's
remember
like
being there.
Showing Nicole Brown Simpson's sister a bunch of knives. Like, look at it. Remember these knives that killed your sister? It's like, yeah, why do I don't want to, I know. I was there. I know what it looks like. I was in it.
There were degrees, I think, with some of these men. I think if you were on Captain McVeigh's ship, if you were in his little flotilla, then it wasn't as bad because you had rations the whole time. You were on a raft.
You were with a stable leader. Like, he was kind of like keeping shit together. I feel like the captain's aura also like held people together. But then if you're on one of the other groups,
if you're in the Red Man
Cannibal
group,
Cruise Line.
Yeah, if you're in the Red Man group or Buck's group, like, you're coming away with it with much different stories than, a guy in Captain McVeigh's group.
Okay.
And of course, for a disaster of this magnitude, someone had to answer for it. So remember, the USS Indianapolis had just dropped off the enriched uranium used in the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, meaning that all of this happened in the last weeks of World War II. On the same day that the Japanese surrendered, the sinking of the Indianapolis was also announced to the public. It kind of soured the victory because the men and the boys on the Indy, they died for no reason at all. But since somebody had to pay, the blame was placed completely and totally on the shoulders of Captain Charles B. McVeigh III. In November of 1945, just months after he survived the sinking of his ship, Captain McVeigh was court-martialed for failing to order his men to abandon ship in time, which was not a fair charge, and for failing to zigzag. Also not a fair charge. This man was scapegoated harder than... I would say he's one of the top scapegoats of the 20th century as far as people that were like unfairly blamed for something.
They laid the whole thing on him because they just wanted to say that it's kind of like it was a mixture of policy and bad luck.
That seems like the missiles that came from the
I mean, that's just war, man. They were out there to kill people.
But that's,
so
that's what to blame. That's who you blame.
Yeah, war. What is it good for?
What's so civil about war anyway?
Well, dude, I mean, speaking of the person who fucking launched the torpedo, during McVeigh's court-martial hearing, they brought Commander Hashimoto to testify. The man who sunk the USS Indianapolis, he showed up in court.
Sorry, everybody. It's just, it's just here, man. I was under the influence of a flag.
Of course. So what happened to McVeigh?
Well, Hashimoto said that even if McVeigh was zigzagging, it wouldn't have made a difference because Hashimoto had fired enough torpedoes to guarantee a hit. He's like, it wouldn't have mattered. And even so, McVeigh was court-martialed and placed on a dead-end career track as a rear admiral. And
rear
McVeigh
admirals actually do a lot of the zigzagging.
Oh,
yeah. Well, McVeigh was by all accounts a fantastic captain. I mean, he was third generation too. Or no, he was second generation. Like his father had been a naval captain. His son was in the Navy. Every man to the one on the USS Indianapolis had nothing but the best things to say about McVeigh. He was supposed to be an admiral. But because the court-martial had been highly publicized and because the media had pressed the Navy's narrative that the disaster was all McVeigh's fault, the families of the men who died transferred their grief and hatred directly to McVeigh himself.
What a nightmare for that poor guy.
See, McVeigh had erroneously thought that writing 879 letters of condolence to the families of the men he lost, he thought that'd be a comfort to the families.
Right.
Instead, all McVeigh did was give all of these people his home mailing address.
He doxed himself.
Oh, man.
For decades afterwards, McVeigh received a steady stream of hateful letters from the families of those killed on the USS Indianapolis, all of them blaming him for the tragedy. And the letters only increased around the anniversary of the sinking, and especially at Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Because he'd get letter after letter of this, you're the reason why, my husband would be, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I'd be having a Merry Christmas, except your decisions led to the death of my husband, and that's why my children don't have a father. This would be the 25th birthday of my son, except he's dead because of you. And that's just constant.
You can just see him flipping through the mail and be like, hate mail, hate mail, hate mail, hate mail. Oh, a bill? Hate mail, hate mail, hate mail. Oh my God.
This was
Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, you're talking about, that's a memory from when mail was a thing and people cared about mail.
Yeah. And amidst a never-ending flood of hate mail from sisters, brothers, wives, and parents, not to mention the insane amount of PTSD he suffered from, McVeigh put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger on November 6th, 1968.
Damn.
That ain't right.
But in 1996, an 8th grade student named Hunter Scott began researching the story of the USS Indianapolis for a school project after he saw Captain Quint's speech in Jaws.
That's how movies change lives. I don't care what Spielberg has done. I don't care about his crimes and the secrets he knows.
Well, he has no crimes.
You don't know. You just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, I think you have a pretty good idea. I don't think Spielberg, we shouldn't just be saying
What
that he
did
committed
Spielberg
crimes.
know? What did they
let's
tell him
not
before
go
Close
see-
Encounters of the Third Kind? What did he know?
No, you're talking about alien stuff that is, again, not criminal.
It used to be more serious.
It's very serious right now.
And after this 8th grade student discovered the terrible disservice done to Charles McVeigh, he began a campaign to clear the captain's name. Hunter was soon joined by the commanding officer of the second USS Indianapolis, which was a fast attack nuclear submarine.
Cool. That's not going to do bad things.
Not at all.
And working together, they took the fight all the way to Congress. And after a lengthy legal battle with the Navy, a resolution was passed in October of the year 2000, exonerating Captain Charles B. McVeigh 55 years after the tragic sinking of the USS Indianapolis. But while the sinking of the USS Indianapolis was really no one's fault, at least when it came to the Navy brass, a particularly American desire for revenge and punishment ensured that the USS Indianapolis still ruined the life and the career of one more man who had already suffered more than we can ever imagine.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I guess it's nice for the family, for the lineage, for them to have this.
It's
I mean,
always
like,
nice to be exonerated after you're dead, because then you can really benefit from it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the
But
thing. You can really, it really helps everything
It
when you're dead.
reminds you a little bit
yeah.
of what's going on right now with the NCAA. Reggie Bush, he's getting his Heisman Trophy back.
Oh,
Because now you can actually make a little bit of money and you can sign autographs and
that's
stuff.
very nice,
They
actually.
used to prosecute or
I mean, he
hurt
didn't
a lot
kill
of-
800 men. Like,
No,
this
he
isn't
had
a-
sex with Kim Kardashian.
Oh wow, that is well.
And I think he did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, wow, what an incredible story. The USS Indianapolis. It is different than the Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh, it is very different.
It
is very, very
That movie
different.
did not show me those things.
No,
in
it's.
that
I mean,
way.
that's the crazy thing with the whole thing is that there really was this public desire for punishment. Like someone had to be punished for this, and it was just McVeigh who happened to be the one who bore the brunt of everyone's anger and grief.
It's
just
what
'cause
we
it was
do.
at the end of the war.
It's what we do. It's like, after 9/11, someone was going to get it.
Yeah, it just
We
happened
didn't
to
know
be,
who just yet. We just had to choose, spin the wheel, and then they did.
And it was hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. Yeah, there's always somebody's got to get it. When America gets pissed, somebody's going to get it.
Yeah, and it's usually not the actual perpetrators.
No.
Usually not.
Looking at you, Saudi Arabia. All right.
We're actually announcing our new tour dates over in Saudi Arabia. I just want to say thank you guys so much to our listeners over there. We actually do have some tour dates we want to pump. Next week, where y'all come out? Des Moines. We still got some tickets available in Des Moines. We've got tickets available in Omaha. We got tickets available in Detroit. I will say we're very, very lucky in the fact that our shows are selling out. And it means a lot. We can't wait to come and see you. Lastpodcastonleft.com. Get those goddamn tickets.
Yeah, get the tickets. We can't wait to see you.
Tickets going
LastPodcastMerch.com. And we can't wait to go. Did we go to Omaha together, or because when I traveled across country, I stopped in Omaha. And
We've been to
loved
Omaha.
That little
We
town.
went, yeah, we went to
We were
Omaha.
there,
We had
okay.
that was actually the last date of the first big tour we did that year that we did like something like 60.
2018?
So we did something like 60 shows in a year. The last date was Omaha.
I love
remember
Omaha.
that
I'm excited to
distinctly.
go.
Yeah.
And of course, Des Moines, we always have a blast.
I
there as
love
well.
Des Moines. That strip down there is really fun. I'm not having thongs again before we perform. I'm not doing that.
No, but I will have it afterwards.
We'll have
yeah,
it.
sure.
Wonderful
Yes.
food. Wonderful food.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for supporting all the shows here on the Last Podcast Network.
All that shit. Last podcast merch. We got
Yeah,
the
go to
coffee.
the Last Podcast merch. We got some Spring Hill Jack coffee. We got the weed line.
Absolutely. Santa Ana, we're going to be in there.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
We're going to be there from noon to 4. We're going to come down there and see you guys. Can't wait. At Whedon. Excited to show you some of our vapes.
Yeah.
Going to show them there.
Hope you guys enjoy the vapes. And is there anything else?
And a little bit of a notice, you're going to see a tiny change. This week, we're going to have some interviews come out because our staff is taking a week off. We're going to take a bit of a week off for
Yes,
everybody. So
absolutely.
we're going to be coming back around, but we're here. We're going to have shows pumping out.
Well,
Nothing else will change.
A mini summer break, but of course we still provide content, and I think you guys will enjoy all of the
Because
things
we
that
put the lash to ourselves.
Yeah, we pull, what is it called? Flagellizing?
Flagellating.
Yeah, we
Let
flagellate
him say it.
ourselves. We flagellate
Flagellizing.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Flagellating. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for supporting the network and the shows. And never forget, hail yourselves.
Hail Satan.
Helgin.
Magustalations.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had me a drink about an hour ago and I went straight to my head.
Yeah.
This show is made possible by listeners like you. Thanks to our ad sponsors, you can support our shows by supporting them. For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to lastpodcastnetwork.com.